Hello, everybody. My name is Joshua, the founder and director of El Terreno here in Ecuador. I'm very happy to be doing our second presentation of today, this time with David and Matthieu from France and Canada, who have been working with us for the last 8 weeks on water projects. I'm looking out the window at some very dry landscapes. It hasn't rained here for almost 2 months now. And so we've got lots of issues here. Water is probably the biggest challenge that we face in terms of infrastructure in this area. So really happy to have David and Matthieu here working with us over the last 8 weeks to explore working with the local community, speaking to local stakeholders, to really understand the challenges that are being faced and to be able to take steps towards finding the solutions that we need. So I'm very happy to pass over to these guys who have put together their final presentations to share the work that they've been doing. Over to you guys.
Thank you. All right, so let me just share my screen. This one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's present this. Where's the present button? Okay, there we go. All right, so here we're going to be presenting a presentation which is about irrigation water here in Atandawa and also in the community of Cochabamba. So let's continue here. So just a bit of a background on who we are. So Matthieu, if you want.
So for me, I'm Matthieu from France, 25 years old. I studied law. And yeah, we have been here with David to work on that water project for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm from Canada, and I'm 21, and I'm studying civil engineering at the moment. So yeah, we've just been doing this internship, and it's been a really nice 8 weeks. So just to get a bit of a background for those who don't know about where we are. So Atandawa is it's a very small village located in the Andes here in Ecuador. It's close to the city of Guaranda, which is pretty small as well. So it's very, very rural. And the majority of the inhabitants here are mestizo, which is mixed between indigenous and European, or they're fully indigenous of they're Quechua. So this village is majority farmers. So just going outside, you can see just all the farming that's done here and the crops that they have here. They do corn, potatoes, wheat,
Onions.
just a lot of different crops. So yeah, that's what they dedicate themselves to. And just to speak more about the irrigation system here, it relies heavily on the floodplain of the neighboring town, which is Cochabamba. And this town it's a little bit more elevated than Atandawa, so everything just flows down to this village. And yeah, the irrigation water is administered by the Junta de Agua de Riego, which that just means the Association of Irrigation Water of Atandawa. So I'll speak a bit more about that here in the next slide. So what is the Junta? So this is an association that manages the irrigation water. And it's a very different structure than what we're used to in Canada or France. So they have an elected leader that is also an associate who's using the irrigation water. And all the decisions need to be done during assemblies, which are held about 3 times a year, usually. So everybody gathers together, all the associates, all the people who are using the water, gather together, and they vote and they talk about the issues that are affecting them with regards to the irrigation water. So it's very low level. There's no big hierarchies. So I just put a little diagram of kind of what it looks like, but in the end, really the president is one of the associates. So it really is like they know as well how bad the situation is with the irrigation water. Yeah. So just to once we understood the background of this place, we started doing interviews with the different parts of Atandawa and also in Cochabamba, just to get a bit more background on what's going on here and what the problems are. So we started with Atandawa Alto, which means higher Atandawa. And this place is more indigenous than the rest of Atandawa. They are assigned 4 days a week by the junta for irrigation water purposes. But when we interviewed them, they said that there's not enough water. And for example, one of the farmers, she said that she wasn't able to plant lettuce or broccoli just because those require more water and there wasn't a consistency of water. So yeah. The next part is the interviews with Atandawa Bajo, which is lower Atandawa, which is where we are right now. So there are less people living here. It's mostly older farmers and young children, which is a very interesting demographic to have. Just because there's been a lot of people in the middle group which have left just due to migration and lack of work here. So Atandawa Bajo is assigned 3 days of a week by the junta for water. And they also say they don't get enough water just because people upstream are using too much. So yeah, we noticed there was a lack of organization with the distribution of water. And especially in Atandawa Bajo, we saw differences in the usage of irrigation water. So for example, we interviewed Walter, who has a reservoir, which is the picture on the bottom right. So this reservoir is filled. So the irrigation water fills the reservoir, and he uses that to water his crops. We also did an interview with Hugo, which he is an associate, but he doesn't use the water at all. He makes his own wells, which is pretty interesting. But it also shows how people have gone to other methods, or they've just relied on rainwater instead of using the irrigation water system, just because of how it doesn't work the way that they would like it to. So I'll just continue here. And then we did interviews with Cochabamba, which is the area where the water comes from. So this is a very indigenous area as well. And they're higher up than Atandawa Alto. And what we found out was that many people don't protect the natural wells of water. There's a lot of issues with protection of buffer areas and the marshes and tributaries. So, and a lot of people were willing to change that. We did speak to people who said that they didn't really know exactly how to fix it, but that they were willing to assure a future for their children, that they would have water as well. And yeah, so our observations were that there was just too much chemicals. They were letting cows in, and they just engaged in deforestation, just due to how the culture of agriculture is, which is just to have as much land as possible for agriculture. But of course, that has its consequences. So yeah, so from that, we divided the problems that we identified into 3 categories. So we have the social and the organizational one. So there was just a real lack of organization and planning by the junta. There was really some tension that we could feel, especially during a presentation, like an assembly that we had with all the associates. We could really feel that. So there was a really deficient communication, especially between Atandawa Alto and Bajo, because they were kind of tense and they were saying, oh, one of them is using more water and the other one is they don't have people, so they shouldn't use as much water. And that was a real big point for us. There's also no adherence to the water schedule. So there actually is a water schedule by hour, but most people just use water all day, which means that obviously people, if there is a scarcity of water, then people who are lower down in the system, they won't get as much water as the people above. There is also an insufficient investment. So another thing is that the junta had a proposal to fix the technical system because it is a lot of canals and connections. But that investment or that proposal was done in 2018, I believe, which was 6 years ago. So no change at the moment. Another, or I'm not sure if you would like to talk about.
The technical system?
Yeah.
Yeah, another problem we identified was the technical system, where a lot of tubes and canals are obstructed frequently, especially the open canal, because the canal that give water to Atandawa is divided in two. One is open, the other one is closed, and the one which is open is often obstructed. As well, there is a lot of issue when it comes to low storage. There is no enough way to store water, and the junta is currently proposing a reservoir in order to address that issue. And also there are like a lot of like problem of installation, and the infrastructure overall is aging, like stuff is aging.
Yeah. And yeah, the other issue we saw was with the captation system. So how they receive the water, where the water comes from. So there, as we said, there's an unprotected watersheds. There's an insufficient quantity of native trees, which really help with water preservation. There is compacted wetlands from cows stepping all over and compacting and making it impermeable. So the water just runs off and goes to the coast, basically. Yeah, there was just a lot of contamination near the sources as well. So some possible solutions here.
So for some possible solution here, the first one, when it comes to the social organizational issue, like the question that we ask is how can we improve the harmony between associates? And it could be by developing a strategic plan, usage evaluation, some workshop, and most of all improve the communication. When it comes to the infrastructure, how can we improve the consistency of water? Well, it could come from like fixing tubes, standardizing connection, hire an operator, and that has been done over the last 8 weeks. An operator has been hired. Install more reservoir. This is currently ongoing, and also to do more minga in order to maintain the current infrastructure. And when it comes to the captation system, how can we assure enough water year round? Well, it does come from protecting the water sources, to do a mapping that we realize, and we'll talk about that later, and make agroforestry design.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, so when it says minga, that actually is a term here for group projects. So for example, the entire village comes together to clean the water system. That would be a minga. And that's quite interesting. That's not something that I've ever seen in any other place that I've been to. So yeah, that is an effective way of fixing things. Yeah. And yeah, another thing is just that proposal that I said that took 6 years. It's actually finally getting done. So for example, for the technical system, there's not much that we can do just because the proposal is already going through and they've already hired a contractor. So we'll have to see in the next few years how effective that update to the infrastructure will be. And we realized that the social organizational aspect was very that was a very different aspect of the issue, because it really has to do with socializing people, and we're hoping that now that there's going to be more assemblies, due to the contractor fixing everything, we're hoping that that would help socialize people and get people a bit more organized, especially because there will be an operator that will fix the times or the schedules, which was one of the issues for the social organizational area. So in the end, we decided to really focus on the captation system, because the junta did not have anything to do um, with the sources of water. They did not know where the water came from. They didn't know how many watersheds there were, and yeah, so we took it upon ourselves to look into that and map the system. So, I mean, yeah, so we started mapping, and just before I go into the mapping, I just wanted to clarify some aspects of the watershed, because I'll be talking more about this soon, and I just want to make sure everybody knows about that. So first of all, in Spanish, there's the word ojo de agua, which is literally eyes of water. And this is in English, basically is just a natural well. And the first time that we saw it, it was pretty interesting because I had never seen a natural well like that. It's just a hole, and the water comes from it. It's just like a spring, like a natural spring from the groundwater. And it's it's clear. It's very clear. So you can tell that this is really pure water. It's not contaminated at all. It really is like after it comes out of the natural well, that's when it gets contaminated or it gets changed. So yeah, there's a lot of natural wells in this area, especially if we counted, I don't know how
53.
53?
Yeah.
Yeah, 53, and that's just the ones that we counted. There was way more. Way more.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. And yeah. So then from the natural well, it usually goes to a wetland, which is where the water, oh, yeah, this is where the water kind of collects. It is the natural reservoir for the water. And people don't really understand that much, just because the water is it's not visible at that area, because it's just a wet land. It really is just a wet land. So people tend to use that for pastures for cows. That's what we saw. And that's really not a good thing, because it really compacts the soil, and it makes it so that water can't go through there. It really is it really is just a reservoir for the water. Another area is the tributary. So after the wetland is the tributary, the river. So that's where you can actually see the water above ground. And I mean, I think everybody knows what a river is. So yes, and then in some other parts of the watershed is the buffer zone, which is a bit above the natural well, because the natural wells are in the mountains. So the area that's above that is the buffer zone, which is where the precipitation water collects. So when it rains, the water infiltrates that area, and then it comes out clean through the natural well. So that's another area that needs to be protected, so that we can regenerate and recharge that well. And then we have also the cloud catching area, which is it's on the ridges of mountains. So trees are planted in those areas, especially native trees of this area. They need to be planted along the summits so that they can capture moisture from clouds. That would also really help with water preservation as well. So now that that's clear, we started mapping in Google Earth, and there's a whole bunch of points. I think it was more like 400 reference points. So yeah, we took the coordinates and elevation and photos and a short description of all those points. And then we put everything into Google Earth. Google Earth is a very easy software to use, and it's very accessible because it's free. So that's why we wanted to make sure that everybody was able to open it and see what the watersheds looked like and what our recommendations were. So we divided these points by watershed, and then we divided those watersheds by zones. We had about 4 zones. And then we just designed recommendations based on each part of the watershed. And I'll explain a bit more soon on the recommendations that we had. And from these calculations and recommendations, we were able to estimate a number of trees for natural preservation and the budget for fences and drinking tanks for cows, for example. So just to explain a bit more about the actual work of the actual map. So the red points are the natural wells that we had. So they're to the eyes, the ojos. The blue points are the reference points that don't have eyes or natural wells. They were just points that we saw along the way, describing things. The purple lines are the buffer zones that we found. Luckily, Google Earth has a 3D function, so we were able to identify that pretty fast. The yellow lines, which are pretty small, they're around the natural wells. These are the protective rings that we want to incorporate so that the natural wells are protected. The green lines are cloud catching rows. So we're doing 3 rows of trees. The teal area is the wetlands that we found. So there's a huge wetland on the right. The orange line is some protected woods that we wanted to with fences. And the blue lines are the tributary or the river. We would like to put trees on either side just to make sure that it's protected well. So you can continue.
So then based on that mapping, we have some results, and that's what I'm going to show you guys. So the first one, before going to the solutions, we want to show you the state of the watershed that we identified. So we identified an extensive deforestation, as we can see right now in the picture on the left, we have a buffer zone, so in Spanish, es la zona de amortiguamiento. It is completely deforested, like completely destroyed, in order to cultivate more or to give access to the animals in order for them to feed them. In the middle, we do have another picture of deforestation where we can see that the agricultural border is advancing as well to cultivate more. And this is also a buffer zone over there. And on the right, we have a natural well, which is completely deforested as well. That a natural well should be like with a lot of trees around, and those agricultors here, they removed all the trees and they cultivate potatoes around. This is, of course, a massive issue for the water inside, and in a few years that will be completely dry. Here we can also see another. I like that picture because we can also see another phenomenon of deforestation when we have the man at the bottom explaining to the woman at the top that she shouldn't deforest like she is currently doing. As we can see on the right, there is a deforestation on the right of like native trees, which are very important for the quality and the quantity of water in the region as well. The second issue that we have noticed is the use of chemicals, a lot of chemicals, right? And as we can see on the left, you can see a woman working in that water reservoir with chemical on her back. In the middle, we can see a natural well, an eye of water with a lot of chemical around it and even inside, without trees around, completely deforested as well, and with potatoes around as well, which shows that sources of water will also be dry in a few years. And on the right side, we can see that the crops have changed color. It's not green anymore, it's blue, like showcasing the use of chemical with a cover, right? And the final issue that we have identified is cows accessing sources of water and a river. Like we can see that those pictures on the left and the right, like the animals are like compacting the soil, making it difficult for the water to flow to Atandawa. And in the middle, we have a picture of like an eye of water on the corner left, and on the corner right at the bottom, we have a drinking tank for the animals. But this is way too close. It has to be a little bit like separated because right now the cows have directly an access to the water well and to the river that leaves from there. And so based on that state, we have identified that 21% of the watershed are protected, 1 out of 5. And the other 75 are either in danger, in grave danger, or completely destroyed. When we say destroyed, it's that there's no longer water, like it has been dried and the water cannot flow. So yeah, that's what we have identified. And so we are proposing solutions to address those issues and to increase the quantity of water that will be flowing in Atandawa. So the first one would be the ideal design. So what is the ideal design about? It's about 50,000 trees that we will need to reforest, like 377 of fences, 30,000 sticks to plant the fences, and 26 drinking tank. And as you can see, that ideal design, most of the trees are going to reforest the buffer zone that have been completely deforested. And why we're doing it that much of trees? It's because we will need to reforest a forest, literally. And this is 100 hectares to reforest. And so that's why we need that amount of trees for the ideal design. It's like if we really do want everything complete. And also, we need fences to protect all the trees from that are in the buffer zone, in the watershed, in the natural sources of water, and in the rivers. How would that cost? That ideal design would cost $80,000, including everything. So including the number of trees, the number of fences that are like the two main spendings, but also the stick to plant them, the drinking tank. We need also to hire people. We need also to organize a mingak on 300 people for like 4 hours to reforest everything in one day. And if we do sum up the cost of all those spendings, we do arrive at $80,000. And that corresponds at more or less $500 per person. This is an investment of $500 per person. The second design is different. This is still what we call the ideal design, but we are changing the way to reforest the buffer zone, because we have to adapt ourselves to the reality of the field, right? And those buffer zones have been deforested for years and years. And today, farmers are like cultivating on them or like using them to feed animals. And we cannot reforest all the buffer zone like that. So what we do propose in that design is the same ideal design, but we only reforest the perimeters of each buffer zone, which decreased significantly the number of trees to 8,000 trees. To 17,000 trees, to 17,000 trees. And here we can see that the buffer zone is not the area that needs the most of tree, but the Atrapanubes, which are the trees, cloud catching trees on top of the mountain. We would also need 200 200 how to say that, 200 like fences, 200 circle of fences.
Oh, like yeah, rolls of wire.
World of
for
Fire,
the
200
fence.
World of Fire, and like 16,000 sticks to
Mhm.
plant them and still 26 drinking tank. And that ideal design where we only reforest the perimeters of the buffer zone will cost $43,000. And the spendings are similar. We just spend much as similar. The repartition, it's a lot of we spend a lot in the trees, in the fences, and the roll of wire. And that total of $43,000 it's about $270 per each person because we have counted 161 socios per family. It's 161, $270 per family. The third design, it's another way to address the issue of the buffer zones that are completely deforested is to use silvestro agriculture, which is a good way, it's a good middle ground between reforesting and keeping the current activities in the buffer zone. And that would require a total of 20,000 trees, 377 of rolls of wire, 30,000 sticks, and still 26 drinking tank. And here we can see that we can see that almost half of the tree will go in the buffer zone as well. And that would cost $60,000. And here we will also need to spend a lot of money in fences, trees, and stick to plant those fences. And those $60,000 it's about $400 for each family here in Nathan Tower. But those are really complete designs. The first three designs that I've presented are really complete. Like we do protect every components of watershed, and we only adapt ourselves to the reality of the buffer zone. But here right now, it's the basic design. It's what we would need, the minimum of the minimum of the minimum. It would be 9,000 trees covering only eyes of water. The trees are above the mountain, cloud catching, and los humedales. How to say humedales?
Wetlands.
Wetlands. And the same with the fences. The fences will only cover the eyes, not the eyes of water, and we will still have 26 drinking tanks. And so here we are. Most of the tree would go for like cloud catching trees to reforest the top of the mountains. Then we will need to reforest waterland and to have some ring of protection in the water, source of water. And that basic design, that is minimum, right? $17,000, including the trees, that will be the biggest spending. And then also like the people that we will be hiring, the Minga, will be so a lot of money in those 17,000. And the other are also spendings. But yeah, that's the minimum is $17,000 for like basic protection. And we also do have another basic design, which are a little bit developed, which consists in covering as well cloud catching trees, the waterland, and the eyes of water. But here, the difference with the other basic designs is that we are installing fences around waterlands because in the other we were not. So that's the main thing here. The main difference is like we do install fences around waterlands. And yeah, 10,000 trees for that one, 45 rolls of wire, and almost 4,000 sticks to protect those things, those components. And how much would that cost? All right, there is a mistake here. It's not 17,000, it's 20,000. It will cost 20,000, and but the graph on the right is correct. The 20,000 with also a lot of spending in the trees, in the Minga, in the people we will be hiring, and in the rolls of wire. And that would come at around $177 for associate. Yeah, that's the whole design we propose. Like we really try to adapt ourselves to the situation, right?
Yeah.
Of the field first, but also the financial situation. This is what we propose after all the discussion with all the farmers, but also with the directives of La Junta de Agua. We hope that one of those design will be implemented in the coming month.
Yeah.
And we thank you for all the support.
Yeah, we thank the junta for their support as well, because they really helped us with the mapping and with the interviews and basically every step. We had the junta helping us. Yeah, I'd like to thank them specifically for that, and also to everybody that we interviewed and all the people who helped us in the mapping stage as well, and also to Sebastian,
Yeah,
who was
Sebastian.
our mentor and really helped us. Like I don't think we would have been able to
Yeah.
do it without him.
Y Doroteo también, Don Doroteo, because this is the one who guided us during the all mapping, right? During
Yeah.
the all mapping guided us. And so, yeah, and all those information are in the report that we are writing, like it will be finished today or tomorrow. And this is all those information in more detail. So if you are
Mhm.
more interested about how we did the design, how we calculate the budget, or if you are more interested on how we did the interview, what the main issues the farmer
Mhm.
faced, this is all in the report in all details.
Yeah.
And accessible to everyone.
Yeah, I think that's good. We're good.
Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you very much, guys, for a fantastic presentation. Yeah, so we'll jump into a couple of questions now. Feel free, please raise a hand if you'd like to ask a question, then I can bring you out. In the meantime, I'll ask the first question. You mentioned about the different challenges regarding the technical side of things, but also to do with the kind of community aspect as well. Which of the two do you think is more challenging? The technical challenges or the community challenges, and why?
I think it's the community
Yeah,
challenges,
I do
honestly.
agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, like it's like the technical challenges, like for example, they already had a proposal for how to fix the canals and how to fix the connections and everything. And that sounds great and everything, but then there was also the communication and actually getting money and actually spending the money correctly, and then all the organizational aspect of it. Like they were in the last meeting, they were actually saying there were people who were saying that they didn't want the president anymore. So that would obviously really impact if we were to change the president. That would impact the what's it called, the how the contractor like who the contractor speaks to. It would just be like a huge mess to change something in the organizational structure. But people wanted that. People were looking for that. So yeah, I feel like that's a really big issue because yeah, like there was money. There is solutions there. It's pretty easy to just hire somebody to just fix something, but when it comes to actually like putting an organized effort into it, it becomes a lot more difficult.
And this is much easier to change a pipe than to convince someone to reforest his
Yeah.
field, to lose a little bit of like, yeah, field to cultivate, like.
Mhm.
And yeah, that community politics, that community diplomacy is very interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's a lot of like hoops to go through just to get everything organized from an organizational perspective. Like things were changing all the time. Like we had interviews that we were supposed to do and then they didn't happen.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of things that just kept moving just because of organization. Yeah. Yeah.
And just a follow-on question from that of what you just said, Matthieu. What Because obviously the farmers, as you mentioned, are reliant on having the water for their own crops, but they're the same farmers who are deforesting the land. So in one way, it seems like they're doing something that's against their direct interest. So could you explain a little bit more about what their thought processes are?
There's one main reason. This is ignorance. Like people don't know it. People don't know that what they are doing, like to deforest around the water sources, to deforest the watershed. Like they don't know that it brings water, right? There is no one that told them that. And so that's what we did with David. Like in Sebastian, we went to the community of Cochapumba. We did a meeting with the whole community and we explained to those people, saying that what you are doing, like those pictures that I show about deforestation, usage of chemicals and the cause in the waters, all those things are not good. And this is what you are currently doing. And that should change. That's what we in a way we try to raise awareness about that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this is an ignorance.
Right. So we've got Sebastian, your mentor, has got a question. Reminder to everybody else, we'd love to have a few more questions from you. So if you've got them, please raise your hand. Sebastian, over to you.
Hi guys, hi everyone. First, my thanks, really deep thanks to you guys, David and Matthew, Joshua, and all the communities that participate in all this process. And the question is, I have two questions. First one is, in this process of this raising this investigation and process of study, you participate in two big assemblies, big meetings, these communities. After this and all the study is done, even the budget, what do you think the next steps we made here in these communities? The first question.
Yeah. So, well, the next step was to do a presentation at one of the assemblies here in Atandawa, just to just explain all the findings that we had and to make sure that everybody understands what we found and what we think the next step should be in the sense of how to invest and what we're going to invest in. Like we would invest in trees, we would invest in the wire, we would invest in those drinking spots for the cows, and then just I think the next steps would just be looking for funding and for a timeline on how we're gonna do this. And as well, speaking to the farmers who own the land to make sure that they understand the impact that it would be to invest in the protection and the recommendations that we've made. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have to think that this is exactly to raise awareness, funding.
Yeah, funding, awareness,
and planting the trees.
Yeah, planting. Yeah.
What's your second question, Sebastian?
Thanks. And the next question, thank you. The next question is, what do you think about the co-responsibility, the society, in all of this? All of these are already happening in our communities that feed us. What do you think about the co-responsibility of everyone?
Okay, well, I think that everyone is responsible. Everyone has a responsibility. Like this is basically for me a share of responsibility. It's not only that person who is deforesting that is responsible. This is also the others that needs to raise awareness, that needs to tell him, that needs to talk to. And that must be a community work. That shouldn't be, or that one person that has that watershed should take care of it. Like that should be, organizing Miga and having, and for me, this is a shared responsibility for like both at Tandawa and Cochapamba.
Yeah, and we were even thinking of giving trees to each family, regardless of if they're in the recommendation or not. And I think that's a really important thing because it means that everybody has something to add to this program or to this project, regardless of if you're in the floodplain or not. we just recognize that the importance of native trees is massive. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sebastian, for your question.
Thank you.
Michele.
Hi guys, everyone. Today I just came to learn, and this was really, really insightful for me. Maybe these two questions are just simple, but I thought, can you organize a Minga, an unpaid Minga, like for free? Is that something people do?
No.
Okay, not you can.
I will show you, like the Minga you can see in all our budget is included as a yellow color.
Yeah.
The yellow color is the Minga. We estimated 300 people in and that cost of $4,000, which is a fixed cost, should cover.
Oh, you need to share your screen again if you're showing something.
Right.
Which is not a fixed cost. All right, how can I share my screen? Can you?
So I think we have to go to the Zoom call and then share screen. Share. Right. Okay, is it showing up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, this is the Minga. We have $4,000, and this includes the salary of the people, the food, the transportation. So, and this is a fixed price. So we cannot organize Minga for free. So yeah, and right. Okay, here as well, 4,000 in yellow, 4,000. There is a mistake on the last slide. It's not free. On the last slide, I have 3,000, but that only includes the salary. It does not include the rest. So I will make a modification on that side. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for that. And the second, also very simple question, maybe you already thought about it. Instead of fences, could you use shrubs or spiky bushes around the water instead of using like fences? This is a design that we were using as a permaculture design. We were using like nature instead of using fences to get rid of pests, but also to block big mammals. So yeah, I thought maybe that could be an idea. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it could be a good idea, but
Sounds like a good idea.
the thing that also so why we use fences is not only to prevent the animals to come, it's only to protect the small trees that we are planting, right? And because we could lose them if we don't protect them. So that's so the reason why we went with fences. But of course that can be modified like half with those little like trees. Like that there's a lot of possibility, right? It's not only one solution that is working, like many things.
Yeah, we were also thinking of doing like living posts. So like the posts themselves would be actual trees. There's a lot of trees that grow pretty fast, and if you were to take a branch off and then stick it in, it would just keep growing like that. So that's something that we were thinking as well to do for the posts. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much.
No worries.
Matthieu, you've spent a couple of years working for the United Nations before coming here. So could you share a little bit about the similarities and differences between the UN's approach and the way that we work here, and what you think the pros and cons are?
Oh, well, there is something very interesting in working here. How we approach the community, right? There is a specific way to approach the community, and this is something that maybe at the UN at the UN or the international organization, or even in the local government, this is not done properly. Like, for example, we have that stories of us mapping the watershed, and there was that person from the local government of Ecuador who went to Doroteo, our guide, and asked, "Oh, I have 200 questions to ask you, blah, blah, blah. Like, how many ships do you have? How many, what do you farm? Like, and 200 questions, and that is not a good approach. Like, Don Doroteo was not happy with that.
Yeah.
And whereas our approach, which is really to take it step by step, to do some interviews with Sebastian that introduced us, and to really get to know the local community and not to arrive with 200 questions, that's a big difference for me. I think that we don't do enough, maybe, and we don't do enough. Yeah, that approach to the local communities, that would be the big difference, I guess. Yeah, to take the time to take it step by step. Yeah, that would be the main difference. Yeah.
Great. Well, we're at the top of the hour, so I've got one more question. Oh, and we've got one other hand raised as well. Do you want to go first?
It's me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, everybody. The first thing that I would like to say is great job, guys. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to see young people to be, involved in that kind of activities. It makes me have hopes in the world for the future. And it's a good thing. My comment was that, but also I would like to say how, and this is for the guys, right? For David and Matthieu. How this activity has impacted your life, how you will see next projects in your life, because you have lived a great experience in very different levels, right? And I just would like to know if in some way this has impacted you, or how you are going to see things in future based on this experience.
It's a really good question. So I think it really did impact me. I think in general, just living in a rural place in Ecuador, it was just completely different from whatever I've lived before. Like even living in a city in Colombia is very, very different from living in a rural place. And I feel like I've just learned so much here. The work that I've done here has been really helpful for my work ethic. And it also just really helped me to understand how international development works. Because back in Canada, I had a class on international development, and there was a lot of things that we touched on here as well. But it really is different to actually be doing a project that is international development, and then it's different to just looking at it on a screen and a presentation, and that's it. So it really has helped me to solidify my understanding and development and my understanding of community work. And yeah, I would really like to do something like this again, to be honest. I think it's just really impactful, and you can really just see how it impacts people, how it impacts the community that we're in right now. And it also just helped to really understand and connect with people that I probably would have never connected with otherwise. Yeah.
And for me, the impact is huge as well. I like to call that experience the experience of a lot of first time, since it was my first time in Latin America, in Ecuador, first time living in a Spanish speaking country, working in a speaking Spanish country, first time working for an NGO, first time working on a project that I hadn't had that much of knowledge about. First time doing volunteering, first time living in a community, working with a community, like what said David, that we can see firsthand the impact of our project, and that is, personally speaking, so enriching for the future. All those first times, and so I think that in the future, whether it's on my professional side or on my personal side, I will have to have a more human-centric approach, like to always think like how it can serve the community rather than like this is something that we don't really necessarily think, right? And so yeah, that's yeah, massive impact for my personal development, I guess. Yeah.
And I'd also like to add as well, there's a lot of things that we learned here that I had never known before, like natural wells.
Yeah.
I've never seen one
Yeah.
before.
Like,
I had never seen one before. And especially with Sebastian, we learned a lot about native trees and the impact of agroforestal design, which I didn't know anything about. That's not something that I learned, but it does have a lot to do with what I'm studying as well. So it was really nice to have that experience and have especially like a different approach from how university is than it is here when it's real life projects.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. Big impact.
Great, great. Thank you guys for your opinion.
Yes, fantastic. Once again, an amazing presentation, guys. Really hard work. You've achieved a lot over the course of 8 weeks. And we've got a couple of people on the call who might and are going to be joining us later this year and next year. So thanks for sharing everything that you've learned, and know that your work is just the beginning of helping to reforest and restore and provide reliable water access, both for farmers and individuals in that Tandao and the surrounding community. So I want to thank you once again for all of your amazing work. And now you're free to take a bit of rest, because I know you've been working very hard over the last, especially the last week or so, to get this presentation ready, but know that you've really left a mark and left an impact. So personally, for myself and on behalf of all of the communities, I want to give you a massive thanks for that, and a safe onward journey.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Joshua.
much. Yeah.
Any final thoughts, final messages that you want to leave us with?
Last word has to be meticulously.
I mean, I think I would say that like you see the issues here, but there's also issues like in other places, and it's something that you have to also be aware of, to be conscious of where the water comes from, to be conscious of how much water you use. And yeah, that's just something that I didn't think about before, but it really is important. And what you see here can also be applied to other places. So
that's what I wanted to say. It's like that local project that we have
yeah.
been doing here can be applied to on a larger scale, and it would be great if in that world we had like multiple Joshua everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's also
Building multiple foundation, like, and doing that on the larger scale. Yeah, because this is clearly what we do need, right?
Great. Well, you guys should be proud of yourselves. Have a look in the comments. We've got some really nice messages from the people who are joining. Dana saying, very inspiring. Thank you. Anna saying, beautiful work, guys. Michele, thanks so much. Keep up the great work. Claudia, very inspiring. Thanks a lot. So well done. Congratulations. Thanks everybody else for joining us. If you're interested in finding out any more information, you can find out on our website, www.elterrenoecuador.com. Until next time, thanks everyone for participating. Thank you, Sebastian, as well, for being an amazing support to both David and Matthieu.
For sure.
Yeah.
See you on the next call. All the best.
Yeah. Clearly.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank